In Magic, there are many ways to tell if a card is powerful, but one of the most important aspects to any card in Magic's power level is the mana cost. This is shown by 3 of the top 5 creatures in the modern format being free spells. So in today's video, we're going to be playing a modern deck with 20 free spells in it. This is a recent 5-0 by Horn Dogs, but when looking at the list, Ancient Imperial Sword and Thrasta stick out like a sore thumb. This is because the Imperial Sword is a 7-drop and Thrasta is a 12-drop. But when looking at Ancient Imperial Sword, this has Convoke, which means that you can tap your creatures to help cast the spell. And it says Trample Ward, Ancient Imperial Sword enters the battlefield with 2+1/+1 counters on it for each creature that convoked it. So this means if we have 7 creatures out and 2 of them are green, we can play a 0 mana 20/20 Trample with Ward. But this still doesn't explain Thrasta. This 12-drop says this spell costs 3 less to cast for each other spell you cast this turn. Trample Haste, trample over Planeswalkers, and it has hexproof as long as it entered the battlefield this turn. This means that with our 20 free spells in the deck, this is easy to accomplish, meaning that we only have to cast 4 spells to make this cost only 2 mana rather than 12. And if you're worried about not having enough creatures, we are also playing Chatterstorm, which is a 2 mana sorcery with Storm that says create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token. This means that if we cast our free spells before this, we continuously get more and more 1/1s, allowing for our Imperial Sword to easily be cast for 0 mana. So in today's video, we're going to be taking this list to see how powerful and consistent Imperial Sword and Thrasta are. Match 1, we're on the draw, and hand looks quite good. Opponent goes turn 1 Breeding Pool. You draw a Burning Tree Emissary, we'll play out Forest into a Hierarch. Opponent plays a Misty and passes back. We'll lead on a Manamorphose, draw an Knight, and we'll cast a Burning Tree Emissary, cast another Manamorphose, and they cast a Force Negation, pitching a Force, so we'll pass back. And on our end step, they fire a Noble Hierarch, dealing 1 to us. Opponent missed a land drop. We draw an Imperial Sword, but there's nothing we can play. Opponent fetches an island and casts a Shardless, cascading into Crashing Footfalls, making 2 4/4s. We draw a Chatterstorm, we'll pass back. Opponent attacks in for 10, we'll trade. They suspend a Crashing Footfalls and cast out a 6/6 Murktide. We draw a Hierarch for turn, we just gotta go on to sideboarding. We'll trim Dryad Arbor, Oath of Nissa, Quirion Ranger, and a Manamorphose for 4 Chalice. Game 2, our start looks quite strong. We'll fetch out a Forest and lead on turn 1 Hierarch. Opponent fetch shocks and deads our Hierarch. We draw a Manamorphose, we'll play out Oath, grabbing a Wooded Foothills, fetch out a Forest, and play another Hierarch. Opponent plays a Forest and suspends a Footfalls. We draw an Oath, we'll play that out. Picking up an Herbalist, we'll cast out an Herbalist. That triggers getting us 2 mana. Cast another, getting 2 more. Then cast a Manamorphose, and cast out our Thrasta. Attacking in for 8, trample and hexproof. Play our Forest and pass back. Opponent fetches a Mountain into a Shardless, cascading into a Footfalls, so sad. We draw a Quirion Ranger. Play that out, attacking with Thrasta for 8. They trade off with the 2 Rhinos. And we'll cast out a Chatterstorm, getting 2 1/1s. Opponent plays a Misty and passes. Ooh, we top deck a Chalice, we'll run that out. And they missed, we'll dispute it, we'll pay for it. And our opponent says they tried. Then we'll just attack in with the team, and they trade off with an Herbalist, falling down to 3. We'll untap a Squirrel, picking up a Forest, big synergies, then play our Forest. Opponent plays a Misty and passes. We top deck a Thrasta, sadly uncastable, but we'll attack in with the squad. Opponent casts a Fire, killing our hidden Herbalist, and they have another Fire, killing our Ranger and a Squirrel. We'll untap a Squirrel and pick up a Forest, giving our Squirrel pseudo vigilance, so strong. Play our land. On the upkeep, they try and cast the Rhinos, but Chalice counters it, and they scoop it up. Let's get into game number 3. Game 3, our 7's a little too slow, so we're gonna mull. Our 6 is not great, but it is better, so we'll keep putting back a Forest. We draw a Quirion Ranger, we'll cast out our Hierarch. On our end step, they dead down our Hierarch. They play a Scalding Tarn and pass. We draw an Ancient Imperial Sword, fine draw, but we can't cast it, so we can run out of Chalice for 0. On the end step, they Petty Theft our Chalice. They play out Mountain and pass. We draw another Imperial Sword. I just realized that we have to cast this Knight first, so we'll run that out and then run out the Chalice. And in response, they cast a Violent Outburst. We'll cast out our Quirion Ranger, and we'll pass back to the opponent. Opponent attacks in for 8 and fires down our 2 1/1s, so unfortunate. We top deck a Manamorphose, so we'll lead on that. Making green, and we draw a land, and we're just dead here, so let's get on to match number 2. Match 2, we're on the draw, and hand looks acceptable. Opponent goes Plains into Memnite and Esper Sentinel. We top deck a Burning Tree. Opponent plays a Saga and attacks in for 2. Then plays out a Springleaf Drum, passing. We draw a Thrasta for turn. We're going to cast out Burning Tree into a Memnite and a Chatterstorm. Opponent draws a card, but we make a bunch of blockers. We pass back. Opponent plays a Plains into a Steel Shaper's Gift, grabbing a Sophie. And it looks like they're holding up Saga activation. And we'll cast out our Beefcake. Just a casual, 2 mana 16/16. On our end step, they make a 4/4. And in their main phase, they make another construct, searching up a Shadow Spear. They play Inkmoth Nexus and then equip the construct. We draw Manamorphose for turn. We'll lead on that. They draw 1 off of Sentinel. We make green. We draw another Imperial Sword. So we'll cast out Chatterstorm, attack in for 16, putting opponent down to 4, and cast a 20/20. Holy. Not sure if opponent can win here, unless they have a hammer plus paladin or something. Opponent plays a clearing into a Nettlecyst, and then they equip their construct having a 15/15 lifelink trampler, and then they just concede. So let's get into sideboarding. We're gonna bring in 4 Force of Vigors for 2 Chatterstorms and 2 Herbalist. Game 2, our starter's quite powerful. Opponent goes Plains into Sigarda's Aid. Opponent goes Plains, Sigarda's Aid, and an Ornithopter. We draw an Oath of Nissa, so we'll run out turn 1 Hierarch. Opponent goes Plains into Stoneforge, grabbing a Cauldron. We draw another Manamorphose for turn. We're gonna lead on Quirion Ranger. Loading a green off of Noble, untapping it, returning Forest. Cast out a Manamorphose, drawing a land, we'll cast another Manamorphose, drawing a Hierarch, so we'll play Oath, picking up a Herbalist, play Forest, play a Herbalist, then run out of Thrasta. Pretty sweet turn, attacking in Freight. Opponent attacks in with an Ornithopter after playing a Clearing, and they equip a Hammer to it. So we'll Force of Vigor, killing Aid and Colossus Hammer. We untap, drawing a Hierarch, then we'll play land and pass because the Cauldron will eat our Thrasta. And on our end step, they put in Cauldron. An opponent plays Saga for turn, cracking their Clearing, then passing back, we top deck another Hierarch, we'll play land and pass the opponent. Opponent plays a Clearing and passes. I don't think we can ever beat Cauldron, honestly. We draw a Quirion Ranger, we'll pass back. On our end step, they make a Construct. And on their upkeep, they make another Construct. And off of Saga, they grab a Springleaf Drum, playing another Stoneforge, grabbing Nettlecyst. We top deck Imperial Soar, so we'll cast out a Hierarch, load a mana off of one of our Hierarchs, picking up Forest and untapping it with Quirion Ranger, casting another Ranger, then casting an Imperial Soar, getting a casual 20/20. Opponent casts an Ornithopter, then activates Stoneforge, putting Nettlecyst into play. Then they pass back. We draw a Memnite, we'll pass. On our end step, they crack a Clearing. Oof, and they have a Pure Steel into a Hammer, and that's just going to do it. Opponent has us. Let's get into game 3. Game 3, we're going to take out our Memnites for Herbalists and Chatterstorms. Game 3, our starter's quite powerful. We'll keep. We'll lead on turn 1 Hierarch. Opponent goes Inkmoth into Ornithopter. We draw an Herbalist. We'll play a Forest into a Burning Tree. Then cast out a Chatterstorm. Passing back to the opponent. Opponent runs out of Saga, then concedes. All right, dope. Showing us their hand. Let's get into match number 3. Match 3, we're on the draw with a risky hand, but gonna keep it. Opponent goes turn 1 Radiant Fountain. We draw a Burning Tree and we'll play out Dryad Arbor. Opponent plays a Gardens into a Grazer, meaning that we're up against prime time. They put in a bounce land and bounce the Radiant Fountain. We draw an Herbalist for turn, fetch out a Forest, play out our Quirion Ranger, untap our Dryad Arbor and bounce the Forest. Then we'll cast out our Manamorphose, making green, find another Thrasta, and we'll cast out a Burning Tree into an Herbalist, a Memnite, and a Thrasta. Pretty sweet turn, attacking for 7, and opponent's down to 15. Opponent plays a Radiant Fountain, going up to 17. Then cast out a Dryad, playing Saga as their additional land for turn. We draw land for turn, so we're going to play that and just shove. We block Herbalist with a Grazer and kill our Burning Tree, taking 10, going down to 7. Opponent makes a Construct with Urza's Saga in their main phase. Then plays Gruul Turf, bouncing Radiant Fountain, and redeploys Fountain, gaining 2, going up to 9. We draw a Hierarch, we'll play Forest and attack in with everything. They block, killing 2 of our creatures, and we kill 2 of theirs. And they're down to 3. Post combat, we'll deploy a Hierarch and hope we're not dead to a Titan. Opponent floats a Green Off Saga, grabbing an Expedition map. They grab Vesuva with map, playing it out and gaining 2, going up to 5. Then plays a Saga and concedes. Wow, we won that. Let's get into sideboarding. We're going to bring in 4 Force for 4 Memnite. Game 2, our starter looks amazing. Opponent plays Force into Amulet. We draw Manamorphose, we'll go turn 1 Hierarch. Opponent plays a map into a Gruul Turf. We draw Burning Tree for turn. Lead on Oath. We'll grab Noble Hierarch, cast that out, and play a Forest. And I just realized I missed on 2 points of damage. No! On our end step, they crack map, grabbing T-West. Opponent plays another Amulet. Then they play a Gardens trying to copy Amulet, and we are going to get the blowout, killing both Amulets with Force. And we'll pitch our Ancient Imperial Soar. We draw land for turn. We'll lead on Manamorphose, finding Quirion Ranger, then casting out a Burning Tree, and our Thrasta. Tacking in for 9. That's so good. And opponent's down to 11. They play a Saga and pass. We top deck Manamorphose, we'll cast it. Drawing into a Burning Tree, we cast that out. And attack in for 10. And opponent's down to 1. And in their main phase, they scoop up. Let's get to match number 4. Match 4, we're on the draw, and while this looks like a 1-lander, Quirion Ranger counts as 2 lands, basically. Opponent goes turn 1 Nurturing Peatland. We'll lead on turn 1 Quirion Ranger. Opponent fetch shocks and plays out Tarfire. And we top deck a fetch land. Such a good draw. Fetch for a Forest. Cast out Hidden Herbalist. Getting 2 green, casting Memnite, and playing out Chatterstorm. Getting 3 1/1s. And on the end step, they tap the Peatland. I mean, we're probably up against Shadow. They cast Blood Crypt into a Thoughtseize, taking our Imperial Soar. Top deck a Burning Tree, we'll play that into the Chatterstorm, making 2 more 1/1s. Opponent plays out a Dust Shadow and attacks for 3. We draw a fetch land, we'll play that, and send in with the team. They block our Memnite, killing it and going down to 3. On our incept, they bolt us and they have 13 power, so we gotta scoop them up. And we're not gonna make any changes in sideboarding. Game 2, our starter's quite strong. We'll lead on turn 1 Hierarch. We'll cast a Bauble targeting themselves, then fetches and cast a Bolt, killing our Hierarch. We top deck another Hierarch for turn. We'll play that into a Heath. Opponent plays a Swamp into a Dash Dragman. No blocks for us. And they take our Ancient Imperial Sword, then bolt our Hierarch. We top deck a Forest, play out Oath, and these both are pretty bad. I guess we're taking the Herbalist. Then we'll play out a Memnite and our Forest. Opponent cycles Street Wraiths and Traverses, grabbing a Bloodstained Mire. They fetch shock and play out a Goyf. We top deck a Forest, we're going to cast Manamorphose, draw in another Memnite. We'll play Forest and pass. Opponent attacks in for 5, we will not block. Then cast a 1/1 Shadow and a Ragavan. Shatterstorm is a fine draw, we'll fetch. Grabbing Forest, cast out an Herbalist into another Herbalist, Memnite, and a Chatterstorm. Then we'll attack in for 1 and no blocks from the opponent. They're down to 11 and they cast an EE. Oh my god. All right, let's get to match 5. Match 5, we're on the draw and hand's a little risky, but we're gonna keep. Opponent leads on turn 1 Urborg. We draw a Burning Tree. We'll fetch a Forest and play a Hierarch. An opponent plays Coffers. Blood Chief's Thirsting, our Noble Hierarch. Top took a Manamorphose. We'll play out Oath, and we'll grab Windswept Teeth off of the Oath. And it's risky, but we're gonna run out the Dryad Arbor here. Opponent plays a Demolition Field, killing our Dryad. We'll grab a Forest. And we top deck a Memnite. So we're gonna lead on Manamorphose, making green. Draw another Memnite. Then we'll play a Burning Tree. Cast out a Manamorphose. Wow, we top deck a Chatterstorm. And I think we gotta go for the Imperial Sword rather than Thrasta. Playing both Memnites, casting a Chatterstorm, making 5/1/1s. Then we'll cast out an Imperial Sword, play a fetch, and hope for no damnation. Oh god, they play Coffers. Please no damnation. Oh no, come on. And we draw a land for turn, and we're just too far behind, and we'll get into sideboarding. We're gonna bring in 4 ley lines for 4 Memnite. Game 2, our starter's quite strong. Just needs to find a payoff. We'll go turn 0 ley line and lead on turn 1 Hierarch. Opponent goes Urborg and do a Fatal Push. We top deck another Hierarch, we'll play Oath, and we whiff. We'll grab a Hierarch. Opponent plays a Swamp into a Whisper, drawing 2 and going down to 18. Top deck a Forest. We'll play 2 Burning Trees and then run out one of the Hierarchs. Oh, they have a Coffers too? Yikes. Opponent casts a March, exiling Invoke. Then they push a Burning Tree. Pretty sweet turn for them. We draw a land for turn. We'll play out Herbalist and our Hierarch. Then attack in for 3. Opponent plays a Swamp into a Karn, and they grab an Ensnaring Bridge. We draw a Quirion Ranger. We'll attack in, trying to kill Karn. It's the small victories that count. Then we'll deploy a Quirion Ranger, passing back. Ooh, they have a Castle Locthwain, and play out another Karn. And they grab a Cityscape Leveler, then deploys an Ensnaring Bridge. And we draw a Burning Tree for turn, and there is just 0 way we can win this game, so we end the league 2-3. Overall, super sweet deck. Definitely a Brew and a Glass Cannon. I think Thrasta was probably the weakest card in the deck. I just never really wanted to cast this card, and even when we did, it was not very powerful. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please consider leaving a like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video.